I'm obviously not the only academically inclined individual on Earth, but I also have been restricted in my studies by a lifelong this, this deficit. That made it impossible for me to attend college until my late 50s, when I finally learned sign language and gave it a go. But we live in a world where people who have no education at all have power and profess to know everything. So my first representation of self is that I testified evidence that AIDS was an attack. Now, under international law, obviously, the perpetrators who did that are criminals and should be apprehended and put on trial in The Hague. It's not technically illegal to sympathize with them. I, I have no power to um, curtail the authoritarianism of the extreme right-wing religious fanatics who sympathize with such a dastardly act. But I'm not going to just declare, the way Zappa did, some kind of overall war on fundamentalism because such people exist. That's absurd. A person can hold very firmly to traditional values and not have participated in such an act and say, in fact, that they never would and that it is dastardly. That's not against the law either, nor should it be against the law. So when it comes to Russia, when you view Russia in the subjective, meaning you stop seeing it as an object of ideology and strategy, when you view it in the subjective, for its romantic character as a nation of novelists, philosophers, artists, talents, and experience in foreign affairs. You are freed, you are liberated when you view Russia subjectively. You are actually liberated from the catastrophe of zero-sum games. I'm entirely in agreement with Jeffrey Sachs that the abandonment of zero-sum games in favor of win-win sustainable development is the way out for the catastrophic situation that making Russia an object has pushed us to. I don't need to rehearse the details. There are plenty of people who think in historical terms about Ukraine and Russia. You'd have to be inhuman not to have a sentiment of profound appreciation for Russia's valor when they were invaded through the Ukraine. What they went through is absolutely heartbreaking. I don't think that the story being told by the Russians about being encircled by people who secretly imagine that it could lead to Russia's defeat the way that Libya was defeated through coup and overthrow, the way Ukraine was subverted by coup and overthrow, by the usual tactics of the CIA, becoming too obviously a form of manifest intention, as though it is the manifest destiny of the CIA to violently overthrow Russia, and therefore they needed to establish that they were serious when they said that they don't want that to happen. And that's what led to the Ukraine situation. That's my opinion. I don't think it's unreasonable for them to include predominantly Russian territories in the Russian Federation. I don't think that's unreasonable under the circumstances. I don't think it's unreasonable of them not to want a neo-Nazi vanguard on their doorstep being empowered by the barbarousness of the network who is ruining Gaza's human condition, seemingly forever. On their doorstep. I don't think there's anything unreasonable about that. I don't withdraw my academic concerns about how this happened and where Russia's complicity begins and ends because I'm a historian, I'm a researcher. But I don't think that there's any narrow-minded intention on the part of Russian academics to forbid useful, peaceful inquiry into these matters. I consider highly likely that they would welcome an inquiry based on the evidence that exists about the situation I've disclosed. But for me, the bottom line is that I am an unarmed student of academics. My evidence is sworn to and corroborated. I have feelings about how it was maneuvered into a trickery intended to ingest me in the process of validating the crime. I don't know where that came from.